what happened last night. I'm going to tell you about my insanity. Yeah.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to the show. This is the Chris and Mike show, if you didn't know.
Okay, so now how come it's only showing me?
Episode 6,421. I don't know. It's episode 6,441, right?
Or 41.
Oh, just 41. Okay. So not 6,441, just 41.
Well,
I got a little ahead of myself there.
We'll get there.
You know, Mike. Yeah, Mike and I were talking offline that there's a fine line between standing on the pier and fishing and looking like a total idiot. So hopefully you know who the comedian is that said that, because I think he's funny as hell.
True story. True story.
True story. So Mike's going to give us a lesson in economics today. So let's start off with that, man. Nothing more exciting and dynamic than economics.
So,
or economics, as some people like to call it.
My first question would be, if anybody understands how this live video works, I would like to know why I'm the only one on here.
I think it's because it's probably your computer and you're the one that is streaming from, so therefore you're the only one they see. So they're going to hear a voice in the background. We can just say it's God.
Oh.
You know, and I'm here, you know, keeping tabs on you, because that's what I do.
So for those of you who are joining the live podcast on Facebook, the voice you're hearing in the background would be Mr. Chris of the Chris and Mike Show fame.
Right.
Because apparently I'm the only one on the video. That was not my intention at all. Anyway, so
yeah.
One thing that people have been
You're not the only one on video, though,
complaining about incessantly as we've been going through this election cycle.
Okay.
Is the price of gas, right?
Yes.
So we've talked about this
price
before,
of gas.
And the government doesn't control the price of gas. And if you follow the companies, you'll see that they don't give a shit about the government or what they think at all. So complaining about who's president does you no good. So a fact that I just pulled out the other day from the Wall Street Journal, the top 6 oil companies made
this episode. Wait, hold on, right there. This is perfect opportunity, Mike. This portion of the show is brought to you by the Wall Street Journal. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, and all donations are accepted. So, in the last 90 days, the 6 largest publicly traded oil companies made more than $70 billion in profit. In profit. Not that's how much they made. In 90 days, they made $70 billion. 6 companies. So, please stop saying
that's a B, people.
The
that's
word
B,
inflation, especially when it comes to gas, and start using the word record-breaking profits for the corporations. You're blaming the wrong people.
And everybody who has invested in the said corporations, because as we've talked about before, boys and girls, the meme going around with gas prices $1.86 a gallon, you know, $1.36, $1.86, depending on the brand, the regular, and then the unleaded and the super unleaded and the premium. That shit was going on when we were in nationwide lockdown. Nobody was going anywhere because of COVID. So for people to keep alluding to that fact that, oh, look at gas prices back then as they are now, it makes no difference, because it was supply and demand. There was no demand for fuel because nobody was driving. I was an essential employee. You know, it's hard being a pimp, but when you're a pimp, you have to get around to your hose and shit. So I was deemed essential by the government. So when I was taking my pimp mobile, my pink Mary Kay Cadillac all over the valley, there was no traffic. I could get what would typically take me an hour in about 40 minutes, because there literally was no traffic. because nobody was driving.
Correct.
So, yes, gas back then in the Trump era, a couple years before his first term ended, gas was insanely low. It was fantastic. And if you note at the same time, if you go back there, that's when the food and shit started all creeping up, because everything was stuck off the coast, because everything was having to be like massively searched and contained for contaminants and all that kind of shit. If you remember, there's pictures off the coastline where it was just lines and lines and lines of ships with the tractor trailers loaded up on them because they couldn't get to shore.
Right.
That's what started this whole the whole bullshit of like we don't have enough of this material to do that. So gas prices, yeah, all-time low. Everything else started creeping up, and people forget that. So Mike's right. It has nothing to do with the government. It has nothing to do with the president. Now, what I will say, if the government can step in and force rent control on a nationwide level, which Grandpa Joe said he wanted to do, but I don't think he remembers he said he wanted to do that.
No, I think he forgot that one.
Doesn't remember that he's even the president now. Probably. But if they were going to go in and regulate rental costs, right? Which America's capitalism. We're based on capitalism. We're based on everybody being able to make a dollar. So if he went in and said they were going to rent control fuel, they'd lose their shit. Every fuel company in the world would lose their shit. You can't put a price tag. You can't cap price of barrel, but you can put a price cap on rent. So it's kind of one of those things. The government chooses what they want to do, because when the Bushes were in power, both of them, their wealth came from oil. Their wealth came from all the gas and all that kind of shit. So,
but
they continued to build their wealth while in office because.
Well, here's the deal. While that's true, you have to remember that Exxon, Shell, all these big corporations send lobbyists to Washington, and they come with hundreds of millions of dollars that line the pockets of the people that are making the decisions.
Yep.
Right? So you're not going to stop that. It's not even having somebody in office that's trying to make money off it. It's the simple fact that they're donating so many hundreds of millions of dollars to these super PACs that are funding the campaigns for all your congressmen and senators. And that's why you're not going to do.
And they're going to line those pockets of those.
That's why you're not going to accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Any type of regulation.
You've got to take the money out of politics to get something accomplished at the level that you just described. I agree with you 1,000,000%. That's what needs to happen. But for the government to step in, all that money needs to stop, because they're never going to make a law like that while people are handing them checks for millions of dollars.
Absolutely. Because why would you?
Here's another.
I'm going to go on the Facebook. I'm going to go on the Facebook and see if I
check it out. So here's another little tidbit that I think you will find interesting. So according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, this is the average price of a gallon of gas from 1978 through current day. And obviously we're not going to go over everyone. Don't panic. But yeah, I thought it would put this whole screen up there.
We are.
I did a squirrel moment there.
Nicole Lynn.
I apologize.
White. Okay, I'm squirreling you back because Nicole Lynn chimed in on our live feed, and she says she can't hear. Oh, she can't hear Chris. She cannot hear me.
Son of a bitch.
All we're doing is talking to yourself, Mike.
We're going to figure this out.
Chris is here, but unfortunately, for some reason, I can't be heard. Thank you for sharing that, Nicole.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that very much. I guess I suck at this.
Let me just send her a little. You don't suck at it, Mike. You're learning. It's like Pink Floyd. You're learning to fly. Okay?
Shit.
Learning to fly.
Okay.
I have to just show her I'm here, though, for real, so she knows. Look, there I am.
Yeah, I see your comment now. And now I see her
Let
comment.
Nicole know I'm here. I know. Yeah. So,
okay.
Nicole. Where are you, Nicole? There you are. It won't let me do that. Okay, I can't put a picture up. But it's kind of cool because the circle above our logo, it says live. See the red circle?
Yeah, but now I look like an idiot talking to myself.
It says live. Well, that's okay. That's okay. It's not that bad of a thing. It's okay, man.
We'll end that one here so we can concentrate.
Mike is having his own
on the podcast.
Mike is having his own conversation.
Yeah,
Mike is having a mental breakdown. We've talked about it, and he's decided to do it on air.
This is it, folks.
Because why not?
It's over.
Why not?
That's kind of why we had a squirrel moment there.
It is over.
I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to approach this subject. Chris just tore the Band-Aid off. I'm having a mental breakdown.
We just, yeah.
So I was hoping.
It's okay.
I was hoping to go live on Facebook and get the help of our 518 stellar followers to save me from this mental breakdown, but Chris is going to have to once again do it all alone. That's why he's Superman.
I don't know. What am I doing alone? What am I doing? Are you still on? We're still recording though, right? We're just not live on Facebook.
Yeah, I didn't end the recording. No.
Right?
Now the people that are listening are like way off in Never Land with us. Yeah. So if you want to know the kind of conversations that
what the hell's been going on,
Chris and I and the band would have just sitting around bullshitting, these are the kind of conversations you had to keep up, folks, because the subject and topic could turn like on a dime. We're going 105 miles an hour down the interstate and we take a 90-degree turn. It's just how we roll.
I can't drive 55. That's how we roll.
So you posted that. Oh, I need to get rid of this video. It's weird when it starts up. Sorry, folks. I apologize for all this, but I'm like fascinated by not being defeated by machines. And Chris knows this better than anybody. But if you're new to the podcast or you don't know me very well, when the video starts, there's both of us. I see us. There's you. There's me.
Right. There's both of us. I see us too. I do too. Together, we're going to find a way. Ooh,
and then it goes to just me.
Together, we're going to find a way. It goes just Mike.
So, if anybody knows why that happened,
just Mike.
Shoot me a message.
Like Mike. If I could be like Mike. La, 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 Mike.
Yeah, it's amazing any of this shit like works Mike. At all. Just
like Mike. You know what? It works, though, because we make it work.
We do make it work. We're amazing.
We make it work. Did you know that today is Tuesday, August 6th in America? I am sitting in the glorious state of Arizona, which is commonly known as the whale's vagina. And it is super, super warm. And there's supposed to be a tornado today with 60-mile-an-hour winds ripping through the state, wiping us out as if we were a giant trailer park in the Midwest. I personally don't believe the hype because Arizona meteorologists are so hard up for weather that they make any minuscule thing into Everest. Like they start talking about monsoon season in March because they want to build it up to July because there's nothing to talk about. This is the state where if I was a weatherman, I'd record all my weather segments the first of the month, and I would disappear for the next 29 days and come back and have not missed a beat. Now, there are those little nuances where shit goes wrong, so I would have little blurpy things just in case something went wrong and they had to do an audible.
Right.
But it's the easiest job in America, being an Arizona meteorologist. Agreed. Hey, sunny skies today with a high of 110.
So,
and guess what? Tomorrow, sunny skies with a high of 110.
Would you not agree that potentially maybe San Diego or Honolulu would maybe just edge you out?
I think you're probably right in that aspect, and I misspoke. San Diego is commonly known as the whale's vagina. Arizona is known as Satan's pit. I got those two confused. We're in Satan's pit. San Diego is a whale's vagina because it's so moist. The air's so moist in San Diego. Hawaii, I think you have a little conundrum there because Hawaii, you have elements of typhoons, and hurricanes and volcanic eruptions.
Okay, volcanic eruptions.
And then you
I'll
have
give
the rain and the sun. So I think Hawaii has a little bit more to offer meteorologists than Arizona does.
Okay.
You know,
agreed.
So and so this portion of the show is about you. So this portion of the show. Oh, what the fuck should it be brought to you? Oh, I know. This portion of the show is brought to you by Oreos. Who's that kid with the Oreo cookie? Oreo. How do you spell fun? Oreo.
That brought back.
So
memories.
recently, I was at lunch with my son. Yeah, with my son.
Remind me to go back to
the family
US
I
Bureau
grew up with
of
across
Labor
the street.
and Statistics.
I will with the Rodarties. Had lunch with Tony, Rick, Jake, and myself. Customer service sucks ass. Let's just say that. They're restaurants in Arizona. It's so hot that nobody wants to do anything, even though you're inside an air-cooled environment. Jake got there, got 4 waters. Then I arrived about 5 minutes later with Rick and Tony. And then about 15 minutes lapsed before the waitress came back over to see if we wanted something to drink. And then about another 10 minutes lapsed for her to come over and see if we wanted to order some food. We got there 11:30. We didn't get our food till 12:22. Customer service sucks.
An hour?
Okay. Do better. If you're in the service industry, basically, if you're in the service industry, your entire shift is predicated on service. And you're going to make tips. I don't tip you just because it's your constitutional right as a server. I don't. I tip you based on service and quality of service and attention to the guests. What really irritates me, and any of you in the service industry can chime in, you order your food, okay? Prime example, Jake ordered his food and he asked for ranch with his onion rings. Tony ordered his food and asked for ranch with his tater tots. Now, you know the fucking waitress puts the order in with the sides, right? Because they all do it. And what happens 100% of the time? They add a ranch or whatever, the mustard mayo, whatever you order for the side comes 5 minutes after you get your food. Boys and girls, if the ranch doesn't come with your food when it's hot, what's the fucking point of bringing the ranch 5 minutes later? You know what I'm saying? Do better. Do better.
Do you not want to name this establishment, or did I miss it?
Cold beers and cheeseburgers on Higley and Queen Creek in Gilbert, Arizona.
I didn't think you were afraid to name them. I just didn't catch it.
Cold beers and cheeseburgers. Cold beers and cheeseburgers. And what's even more fucked up about this establishment is the French fries. They serve all their meals with potato chips. If you want fries, tater tots, or onion rings, you're paying $3 more. So you get homemade potato chips, which are good. But traditionally, if you're going to spend $15 on a hamburger, which is what this place charges, and don't get me wrong, their food's fucking great. I mean, their hamburgers are fantastic, but it was $14 for a hot dog.
Holy smokes.
And $15 for a burger. $15 for a burger. And then if you want fries, you're paying $3 more. So one person's eating for $20 without tip. And you're gonna drag your ass knowing you have 4 people at a table and not really. And it wasn't packed. It was lunch, man. There was, memory serves right, maybe 10 tables in a venue that would probably have about 40 tables. So it's not overwhelmingly busy, and there's no reason why you can't do a better job.
Agreed. And that's a good.
So that comes to the tip part of it. So tipping in America, Jake, yeah. So I don't know if we've talked about this before, but tipping's out of fucking hand.
We have,
Jake
but we can do it again because it is out of control.
Because he's out right now, so he's living the civilian. Yeah. Yeah. So Jake's living the civilian life, right? And he's going different things, and he went on a date this morning with some chick to a coffee place. You go to the coffee counter, you order your coffee. Then you move to the edge of the counter, and the coffee's done. They put it on the counter. They don't fucking serve you. They pour coffee. Or they put stuff in a blender and mix it up and then put it in a cup and give it to you. That's not tip worthy. So, I'm sorry. You're not doing anything.
Let me interject one second.
You're not being paid for, right? You're being paid to do that. Yes. Interject.
Because I just thought of a segue into what we were just talking about, and I'm not going all the way back there, but here's a good thing for people to realize that I almost became devil's advocate and went, yeah, but, and I hate the yeah, but guy, but Chris is right. But I'm going to expand on it one step further. If the corporation paid the fucking people what they're worth versus what they want to pay them, you wouldn't have to tip them. Right?
Right.
So that's another economics lesson. We keep saying that things are too expensive because minimum wage went to $15 an hour, and it does hurt the mom and pop business. And everybody, I have a good friend who's listening right now, actually the same person that commented that I was talking to myself, works for a small business. That owns a small business. Let me rephrase that. Her family owns a small business. So I know it hurts the small businesses. Luckily for them, their whole family runs the business. They're not, the business is paying the family. They're not employing outside people anymore. They used to, but
that's
with
good.
That said,
is it the Cosa Nostra?
Yeah.
Is it the Giovanni family or the Gotti family or the Gambino family?
I cannot do it.
Is it Sopranos?
Do a Godfather for me. Do not go against the family.
I did not go against the family. He doesn't. That's the thing. He didn't speak Italian. He just don't go against.
Yeah, it's real. Like,
but
you don't go against the family.
I get you though. You don't. Yeah.
So while those
that's Brando. I know it's hard to do Brando.
While those businesses are affected, I understand that, but
right.
The companies at this point in history for the last at least 3 or 4 years have been making money hand over fist at our expense. The part that we're missing is Starbucks is raking in fucking billions and billions of dollars in profit, and their CEOs are making tens of millions in bonuses and salary and probably worth hundreds of millions in stock options. And those people are maybe 25 people at the top, right? Your CEO down to your lowest vice president. Right. I work for a corporation who I said I would never name, and I'm going to stay on that for the rest of the podcast because they don't need any advertisement, but they have at least 7 vice presidents who all make 7 figures. Wrap your head around that for a second. And
Circle K.
Yeah.
Yeah. Circle K. It's big, man.
So you tell me, without the people down there doing the work, what good are those people at the top, and what good are the stockholders? What good is their money if you don't have somebody who is making a livable wage doing the work with a good attitude? Because if you're not paying somebody a livable wage, they're not going to have a good attitude and they're not going to do a good job. That's just human nature. I'm making $9 an hour. What the fuck do I care if you get your coffee, 100%. Right? I don't care if your coffee's right. I'm making $9 an hour. I can't even afford to rent an apartment. I'm living in my mother's basement because I cannot afford to live on my own. How much you want me to care? I make a
I 100% agree.
I make a semi.
I agree with that.
Livable wage, and I'm saying semi. We're not getting rich by any means. And if you're in your position where you have a wife and a couple kids that you're raising, you're not making much money at all.
Well, and understand my gig. I'm self-employed. I wake up every day unemployed. If you think about it, like legit, I made 58 phone calls Saturday because what I do today affects me 45 days later, and so it's not uncommon when I have a day of not a lot of commitments. I'm on the phone for 2-3 hours, chasing, and I call it chasing leads because that's what I do. I go after my sphere and people that I've worked with in the past. But you still have to go after those that you don't know because that's how you continue to grow your business. So my income's not guaranteed whatsoever. Correct. Like just because I put a house under contract doesn't mean I get paid. I don't get paid till it closes. There's so much shit that can happen from start to finish that the consumer doesn't realize, because I only share what's relevant to the buyer or seller depending on who I'm representing. So I don't share the chaos that goes behind the scenes with some of the transactions with some of the realtors that are out there that don't know what they're doing, and I have to pretend like I'm working both sides but only getting paid for one side. I have to make sure everything's disclosed. I have to make sure all the paperwork's in line. I got to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are done. I mean, there's so many things that I do even before the thing gets sold, whether I'm representing buyer and seller, that people don't realize. So
that
it's comical to me that people right now are slamming realtors because of what we make, but you're not going to have a problem, trusting your life to a doctor. You're not going to, you go to a mechanic and you don't question the mechanic. You don't question when you go to drop your car off to get your brakes changed.
Not unless you're my dad.
The mechanic says, "Oh, it's going to cost you $1,500 to change your brakes." Right, but on a whole, 80% of the world, Americans, you take your car to make. No, but I get you. But no, I saw a post on Facebook the other day where a dude was like, somebody wanted $1,500. That's why I brought it up for a brake job. But this guy's like, I went and got $150 worth of parts, and 3 hours later, I did my own brakes. Not everybody has that aptitude to do that. I do not. I couldn't do that. I mean, I could YouTube it and fondle my way through it, but right. So you rely on that mechanic and that AC guy and that plumber and that electrician, because those are the four big deals in life that you have to deal with that are unknown to you. A mechanic says, yeah, it's going to cost you $1,500 to fix your brakes. What are you going to do? Tell him fuck off?
Let me rephrase.
You're going to go to second opinion. What if that opinion comes in at $1,300?
Let me rephrase that. Not capable.
Rephrase.
Unwilling.
There you go. But so my point is this. We started talking about tipping and shit like that. Right. We started talking about tipping and shit like that. So realtors don't get tipped. Doctors don't get tips, right? Plumbers don't get tips. Electricians don't get tips. As of lately, pest control guys want tips. Like, really? You want a tip? You're coming out and spraying for bugs. That's your job, and you want a tip now?
Fuck that.
Cleaners want tips. Well, I fucking hired you to clean my house. We settled on a fee.
That's your tip.
And now you're telling me you want a tip. Now, right, my landscapers, I have a landscaper comes out once a month. I've known the guy forever. I knew him when he first started this business. Really good guy. He has an option when his crew's here that I can tip them. Right now, one time I did because they went above and beyond, but the other times I didn't because you're doing what I'm having you do. I'm paying you. This is my list, and you did all those things, so I'm paying you for that. Now, when I asked them to do a couple more things that weren't on the list, I had no problem because let's give them a little extra something because they added something on their list that they weren't thinking they would do. But I don't. You go to the only thing that's not asking for a tip right now is a grocery clerk.
Oh, that's coming.
You go to the grocery store, you're in line checking out. You're not. Right. No, I don't think it is, though, because 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, at least in Arizona, you're bagging your own stuff. And to me, if I'm bagging my own groceries, you should be giving me $10 off. My
agreed.
Because you're not paying that kid.
You know that
you're not going to pay that kid $15 an hour to bag my groceries. Then
You know that's going away at Walmart, right?
What? No, what? Yeah, I heard about that.
You know why?
Yeah, I heard
because they're losing a fuck ton of money
Uh-uh.
from people stealing shit, because why wouldn't you? I'll pay for this pack of gum and steal this TV.
Yeah, because
that's extreme. The TV's got one of them.
So and that's good because to me, no, yeah, but still, but here's the thing. Jake and I were in Target the other day. I had to get some protein for post workout, and we were going down an aisle, and a little I don't know, size of half the size of my cell phone, right? A little package, right, of earrings was on a shelf between 2 boxes of something. I don't know if it's cereal or what we're in, but a pair of earrings were taken off that thing, and the other 2 were still sitting there. So somebody basically grabbed the earrings, walked around the store, got to a point in the store where they didn't see anybody looking, took the earrings off the thing, put them in the air, and walked out with earrings.
Sure, why not?
So that shit happens everywhere. That's why they have loss prevention and whatnot. But to me, if I'm bagging groceries, then I should get $15 off my tab because I'm bagging my groceries.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can think of right now that medical fields and the grocery store, the only two things I can think of right now that don't ask for tips at checkout.
And you're pretty much accurate. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is asking for.
Yeah. I know when my AC guy comes over here, he's not asking for a tip, but he's still getting $200 just to show up.
Holy crap! I just had mine tuned up for $125.
Well, it's because he does mine's. I have an older train, so he comes twice a year and just kind of tops off my Freon because it's one of those. So he doesn't technically charge me for coming out, but he's making $200 because he's tagging my our air conditioning was moved when we built the addition, and I think when they moved it because the contractor I was working with is Eco Gonzalez, the piece of shit motherfucker. He was subcontracting the work to people who had other, like one guy, I swear to God, he must have worked at a new build because one of the days he was here, some paperwork was in the backyard that referenced this builder, and it was a checklist. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, and I'm cool with that. You want to subcontract, and you know, I'm fine with that. But you're in the attic when it's dark with flashlights soldering the copper piping together when we move the air conditioning. So somewhere there's a pin leak in the train somewhere, and it's impossible to find it.
So I had the same problem.
He's got to come out a couple times a year and just fill me with Freon.
I had the same problem with my unit, and that guy told me the same thing. He said the leak is almost impossible to find once it starts. So I had to buy a brand new unit because I had the old kind of Freon.
Right.
You know, mine was the shit that they want like $100 a pound or $400 a pound for or something now, because it's basically illegal.
Yeah.
So once they deem it condemned, then you have to just upgrade to the new kind of Freon because you can't get the old stuff. So I got a nice $7,000 train myself.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it's quiet as a church mouse. I'll give it that.
Yeah, ours is quiet too. It's just one of those things that I got a text message from my broker, threw me off. Ours is quiet too. Condensation is crazy, man. It drips like crazy when we move the unit. The fuckers ran the condensation line along the back porch. So it drips right into the grass by the corner of the patio. So, like, once the air starts running, that shit's always wet.
Oh, yeah.
It's always wet. Like, you couldn't have just turned that. So Nick is like, you need to fix that. And in my head, I can fix it, right? Because it's just PVC pipe and glue and a little PVC cover.
That's all you need.
So in my head, I can fix it. It's just a matter of I got to figure out how to, make it go the right direction.
Let me ask you a question about something that you talked about earlier. For people, like, I don't know what the percentage is. We could Google it. It's no big deal. But the majority of the people in this country work at an hourly rate or a salaried rate. From the time that you start working with somebody, on average, in hours, how many hours do you think you put into before you get paid?
It varies.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I said average.
So yeah. So
you got extremes. People who want to buy today and people who don't ever want to buy. And
I would yeah. So I would say on a yearly bit, like right now I'm at 11 closed transactions for the year. I want to get another 20 before the year's done. I have two in escrow right now, and I have 7 listings. Okay. So say get all 7 listings sold and these 2 close, and another 10 by the end of the year. I'm going to say on average for the year I probably make $100 an hour. Some of that I listed a house. Now I listed it. Agent showed it. wrote an offer. We accepted it the same day. So essentially 4 hours on the market. The agent brought us an offer. They did exactly what I said when I instructed them how, they wanted to bring an offer day one. Well, this is what you need to do. But I'd been talking to that family for over a year. So there was a couple little hiccups along the way that prevented us from going to the market earlier, which it worked to their advantage because the year time, I was able to sell their house for about $100,000 more than I would have a year ago.
Nice.
So it benefited them for having the delays. So in that scenario, if you just looked at the time that it went on the market to when it got under contract, when it sold, is about 40 days. So if you look at it just that way, that could be about $1,000 an hour. But if you look at it from the fact that I've been talking to that family for over 18 months, so on a whole, probably about 19 months total, you'd say from start to finish, that changes dramatically.
So that's what I want.
Which is why I don't.
That's the point
I never look
that I wanted to impress
so I never
upon
look
people is you go to work, I go to work. I'm talking to the listening audience. We go to work every day. We know that we're guaranteed X amount of dollars per hour, and our paycheck every 2 weeks is going to be X amount.
Yep.
He doesn't have a guarantee, and anybody that he just described that's in that kind of industry where it's not salaried, it's not hourly, there's no guarantee. He wakes up every day unemployed, and that's just part of the gig. It was the same thing being in a band. If you didn't book gigs, you didn't get paid. And when you're bitching about the price of concert tickets, remember when we were all stealing music off Napster? Yeah, enough said there. We destroyed the music industry, and nobody could get paid recording music anymore. So that's why your concert tickets are $500 a piece if you want to see Garth Brooks or Shania Twain or some of the big art, Metallica. That's how they make their money now. They don't make money selling music. So you're in the same boat. If you don't wake up and get on the phone and have at least multiple transactions going on at the same time, your family's in trouble. So the next time you go to buy a house and you're bitching about what something costs, remember that.
Reserves and shit. Well, yeah, and the other thing too that you kind of hit it on the head, like so this family I referenced, right? I spent 16 months leading up to, okay, let's get ready to put the house on the market. I could have spent 16 months and then decided, we're not going to move, we're going to stay here. Life changed. This medical thing happened or that medical thing happened or so-and-so decided.
It's a gamble.
Whatever. So all that's for naught. And I've had those, scenarios to where I've busted my ass, and then for whatever reason, the transaction doesn't close or the house doesn't sell, and everything that I come out of pocket with, like I just listed a high-rise condo last week. I just had the marketing done, $600 for the marketing, for the photos, the video, just for photography and the video, because I ordered a drone to go around the high rise.
Oh, nice.
And to go through the entire community and all the amenities. $600. And I don't get that back unless it sells.
That's
like straight up. So my entire occupation is 100% risk. It doesn't matter how great I price my houses. If they don't sell, they don't sell.
Well, you just brought up another interesting point.
I have one that's the best priced house in a...
Not to interrupt you, but you just hit a hot button issue too that people need to realize that I didn't know until I started watching the show on Bravo called $1 Million Listing Los Angeles. Fascinating. These people are selling like $100 million homes and stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
That's where I learned about what you just said. I didn't think about the upfront cost that you guys lay out to put on an open house, where a lot of times it's up to you to pay for the staging, to pay for the brokers opens kind of thing, to have people come through. That's money that you're laying out up front out of your pocket that, you hope to, like you said, you hope to recoup it at the end when you're actually, getting paid. But that's not a guarantee, because that person could go, we decided to stay because we're not getting what we want for it. And now you're out all that money. Right. I wanted that point to be driven home, because a lot of people don't know that.
They don't. And I had a deal where the guy called me off the Google machine. I answered the phone. He flat out said that because I ask everybody how you find me, and he's like, um, I googled and you came up, and you're the along with X amount of other realtors, you're the only one that answered your phone. Cool, do that all the time. So the short version of the long story. He was renovating this house. He didn't get permits. One of the asshole neighbors turned him into the city. The city shut him down while we were in an agreement to sell his house. So I had to go off the market. I already spent money on photos, on the marketing. Went off the market, so they could, do whatever they did. We got to an end where it's like, okay, it seems to be resolved. Put it back in the market. Had open houses, 2 or 3 open houses. I had a couple people knocking on the door with offers. It wasn't something that he would entertain. And then the city came knocking again and said, fuck you. You can't do this. These things are wrong. So we had to take it off the market. So this is going on a year now, where I've invested time. I've spent money. I've gone back and forth. I've checked the house. I went, when the contractor was working on it, I'd show up, every 10 days, walk the house, report back to the sun. I mean, I was the dude's eyes. He's in California. About 3 months ago, I start reaching out for him updates because it was an off-market time, and he wasn't responding, wasn't acknowledging, wasn't calling, texting, emailing me back. So probably about the 5th or 6th time, he finally called me back, and his wife kicked him out. Like his life was going into the shits. This house has been a money pit because he completely fucked up and didn't permit it first, which is his fault. It's completely on him. When he told me he wasn't permanent, I'm like, dude, there's gonna be so much shit we're gonna have to deal with. So there was that chaos. But his wife finally had enough. Fucking kicked his ass out. I don't know the whole story, but the end of this is last week. My broker sends me a message that the house is on the market. And the fucked up thing is, whether they were divorcing or not, he still would have had to sign the agreement to sell the house because they were both on the deed. So knowing full well all the legwork I did for him before going on the market, all the work I did once we hit the market, all the money I spent in marketing, because it's not just the photos, and I got to go market it. It's like,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, I blog and I post shit on my Instagram, my Facebook, and my YouTube. But I still have to push that shit out.
Yeah, because that only goes to the people that subscribe to you, right?
To throw my commercials out. Exactly. So then you're going on Facebook campaigns, Instagram campaigns, spending $600 a month on listing ads, things like that, because that's where people are now. So you have to go where people are
Sure.
now. And then he still fucked me. And didn't even tell me he was going to fuck me.
So what do you lose on something like that? Didn't have the balls
to call me up and say, hey, my wife has opted. Because he told me, I lost my ass. Because you think about it, 4 open houses.
Damn.
Which was
a lot of time.
4 hours each. Time to drive to time, set up, sit, right, and then time to tear down, go home. So there's say 12 hours of that, plus all the marketing I did for every open house. So at least $5,000. I at least lost $5,000 because the fucks didn't stick with me, knowing all the work I did. And it was nothing. None of it was my fault. I'm not the one that went in and renovated the house without permits. Right. I gave him guidance. I gave him insight. This is what you need to do. This, So everything I did was proactive, positive, on the up and up. Again, I was his eyes, his ears. I did the legwork. I was at the house. I was talking to the contractors, keeping them all in check. Reporting back. There was a situation where homeless moved into the detached garage, so I had to step in and get all that rectified. I had to secure the fencing, like so much shit I did for this guy. And then shit hits his fan in his home life. His wife takes control of everything because he ends up being a piece of shit. Kicks him out, and then all of a sudden, everything I did doesn't mean shit. It means absolutely nothing. And there's nothing I can do about it. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. There's no recourse for me to go back to the family and say, you owe me $5,000. Here's all my receipts. I can write it off at the end of the year as marketing expenses, but it's still $5,000 towards $1 million listing, to where I would have made what I made. And then that loss goes away because I would have, okay, if I made $20,000 on the listing, then that $5,000 I'm out. I'm still up. I'm still in the red by 15. I'm still in the black by $15,000. But the amount of time that it took and all the time I invested, that was one of those things where it was $100 an hour.
So exactly what you just did is give a real life example of being in his business is a gamble. It's, we wake up every day and we're guaranteed income. Whatever it is, you work overtime, you make a little bit of extra money, but you can work 40 hours a week and you're going to make the same amount of money every month. If you decided you got into a funk and you're like, I don't feel like going to work today, so I'm just going to roll over and go back to sleep.
Which happens.
Sure.
Which 100% happens with being self-employed. There are days where it's just like I don't want to fucking do this today. Like you talk yourself out because you're drained. It drains you physically to be on the phone calling people. They're clicking on your ads purposely because they want to find an information about that house.
But here's what I want to impress upon people.
They berate you because you call them. They yell at you because you.
If you did that too many days in a row, you'd be divorced because you're not bringing in any money and you're going to lose your house and that's not going to make your wife happy. And my point is, to the average person, your life looks like a dream because you don't answer to anybody.
It does.
You answer to your buyers. I understand that. You answer to your sellers, but you don't have a boss.
And sellers.
You don't have somebody that says, Chris, it's 8:00. It's time to start making your calls. You have to be a self-starter. You have to be somebody who wants to get up and wants to do what they do and loves what they do. And it's a whole different ball game for the people that are listening that live in my part of the country. Even in a town like Bloomington, where State Farm's headquarters is, it's a small town. It's a college town, but combined, it's barely over 100,000 people. That's not a big city. Chris is in a gigantic metropolitan area where there's literally thousands of realtors who are all vying for the same listings. You have to stand out in the crowd. It's a lot like being a rock band in that part of the country. It's feast or famine. You have to be better than the next person who's going to show the house. Your band has to be better than the next band that's going up, or you're not getting the next gig. So he's essentially living the same life he lived when he was a musician.
And
he's just selling houses instead. It's still a gamble. You don't get paid unless you put forth the effort.
And here's what's fucked up. You have people in the industry right now in the Arizona, I don't know about anywhere else, but that will list a house for $800. Okay, I just told you how much it costs me to do marketing. Okay, so kid you not, there's a couple agents out here that will list a house for $795. Their hope is they pick up the seller on the buying side, right? But if the buyer's moving out of state, if the seller's moving out of state, they're making $795. So they have to spend at least $500 for photos.
That's what they're,
because I use really good photos.
I'm confused. Whole, that's what their commission is.
That's what they charge to sell the house.
That's what I thought you were getting at. All right, I missed that part.
Because their hope is they pick up the seller as a buyer. But because of the way things have changed in the world of real estate right now, just because they're going to pick up that buyer doesn't guarantee they're getting paid when they sell that buyer a house. Because we have a thing that went down that basically, if you called me up today and wanted me to show you a house, I'd have to have you sign this document that says I can show you this house, and by the way, this is how I get paid. I've always been upfront how I've getting paid. I've always been upfront about everything that is to know about a transaction, whether represent the buyer and seller, because I've been very transparent and I'm all about disclosure, because the more you disclose, the less you get in trouble. So I've always disclosed everything across the board and do it the exact same way. You could pull up the department could come audit our files tomorrow, and they're going to pull up my files for the last 5 years. They're going to see verbatim the exact same thing. Here's all these documents are signed about a week or two before an offer is submitted, because I do pre-offer stuff. I give you all the information up front, so when it comes time to make an offer, all we're doing is filling out the paperwork for that house. Everything else I already have stored in your file, so I can just move it as an attachment, because it doesn't need to be dropped on your plate the last moment of the day, because when it's time to make an offer, I don't need you sitting there going through 40 pages of documents and making your brain fry. So everything is done up front except what's pertinent to the house that we're going to make an offer on. But it's the same across the board. I've done it the same way for years and years. I use a buyer broker agreement because it tells the buyers how I get paid. I've done that probably 23 out of 25 years. So I'm totally cool and confident that when I go sell houses, I'm not going to have a problem, because the first conversation I have with any realtor, if I'm going to show their house, I call them up. They don't answer the phone most part anymore. It's text and then an email, because nobody likes to do hi, which is going to change because it has to. But I'll ask them, hey, is there any offers on the table? What do you mean? Well, are you negotiating any offers right now on this listing before I set up the show? Well, no, I'm not. Okay, great, thank you. And now I have to add to that conversation, is your seller paying a co-broke, which means the seller willing to pay the buyer's agent the fee for representing the buyer. That's our new little caveat.
That was the rule change.
So I make sure my sellers understand the importance of a buyer's agent.
I saw that on Facebook.
Yep. And I make sure my buyers understand the relevance, of making sure you have to take care of buyer's agents, because buyer's agents do all the work. For what I do as a listing agent, it's time and money for sure. But what I do as a buyer's agent, because you were a buyer through me, there's so much more time and energy invested in a buyer, because you have to start out the process explaining everything, which I love doing. Sure. Educating you the entire time from the first conversation we have until we actually find a house and write an offer. There's probably 30, 40 hours there of back and forth questions, text messages, phone calls, showing houses, because, not everybody buys the first house they see. So like this really cool guy I've worked with before, he's back in the hunt to look at houses. So I told him Saturday before we showed a house, I'm like, dude, we can be dating or we can be married. I'm like, if we date, you're going to sign this form, but every time I show you a house, you have to fill that out. If you want to be married, you're going to sign this one, which, by the way, you signed 3 years ago when I sold you your house. There's no difference to it at all. And I could even pull up his old record, and it's like, here it is. He called me, clarified it, had no problem signing it, because he understands it makes more sense to be married to Chris and have Chris working with me, 100% of the way, than every single house. Sign this, sign this, sign this, sign this. It makes no sense. It's a stupid.
So that
rule.
just makes him
it all comes
exclusive
down
to
because
you.
Somebody didn't disclose something. Correct.
Okay.
Yep. You guys signed it when you bought a house. You bought a house through me. You signed it. It makes you. It holds me accountable, because I got to do my job. I got to find you a house. I got to negotiate the best terms and conditions possible for you, get you the best price I can. But it also keeps you accountable, knowing that I'm your guy. So any house you see, you're calling me, texting me, emailing me. Hey, what's up with 1234 Main Street? What's the deal? So that's basically what it comes down to. Is I've always done it. I've always been transparent.
You know what's ironic?
I've always been heavy on disclosure. Yeah,
you're still the only realtor in the entire world that's ever sold me a house, because I bought this one from a private owner. So you still hold that record.
Right. There you go. Right on. I need to send you a Google review. I'm going to send you a review.
I'll review. 5 stars, man.
But that's the thing that people don't get.
Stars.
It's the time. Absolutely. The time that a buyer's agent spends with a buyer, it's insane. And no matter how hard I educate people, no matter how hard I educate people, telling them no matter what you do, I need to be there with you, whether it's a new build, resale, doesn't matter. I still have had people, and I send their kids' birthday cards and anniversary cards. I still have people that have walked into a new build without me and completely fucked me out of a commission and relied on the builder to do them right. The builder doesn't care about you. The on-site sales agent doesn't care about you. They work for the builder. Their entire job is to hit a quota. So if their quota is to sell 100 homes a year, they're not making 3% every time they sell a home. They're getting a base salary. And so you're just a notch in their belt. That's all you are at a new build. Nothing else. They act like they give a fuck about you, but they don't.
Because they're going to make the same amount of money regardless.
It's like walking into a Circle K and ordering a... Exactly. Okay. Yep. They have to hit their quota. They hit their quota, they get bonuses.
So it all harkens
on-site
back to that bullshit
work for you.
Deal that I told you about when we all went out to that restaurant where the people are guaranteed their tip. It's the same concept. What motivation do I have to go the extra mile when I'm only ever going to make X amount of dollars, right?
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that's right. I know there's
and that's what sucks about it.
Now there's people out there listening going, well, it doesn't make it right. I'm not saying it makes it right. I'm a student of human nature. I understand fucking people and I know how they are. And I'm telling you right now, if you give a guy $5 an hour, you're going to get $5 an hour worth of work. I'm the same guy. If you don't pay me what I'm worth, I'm not going to have any motivation to do a good job either. I'll admit it. And whether people admit it to themselves or not, they're the same way. That guy who says, oh, well, I go the extra mile for nothing is either an idiot or he's helping his friends or family, because that's the only two people that I work for free for. I'll bend over backwards and go to the ends of the earth for my friends and my family that deserve it. You know, the people who are there for you every day, you don't ask for a thing from them because you might need something from them later. So learn that lesson as well.
Right.
But if you're not being paid what you're worth,
the irony too of friends and family, they're more right. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. It's crazy, man. And that's the thing that people don't understand. They just, like you said, people look at what I do and think, oh, you know, he's living the life.
Yeah.
You know, I had
working 2-3 hours a day.
Negotiator, okay, for Maricopa County Sheriff's Department. Right. I had a hostage negotiator. Listen,
floating
to this,
in the pool,
working for Maricopa County Sheriff's Department. Okay. Sold him a house. I sold his in-laws' house because they were moving into the same neighborhood. Okay, and I've known this person for a very long time. The father-in-law was so emotionally attached to their home because he raised both their kids there, and they lived there for 40 years, like easily. And I get that, and I'm not one of those agents. I don't look at everything transactionally. I'm all about the connection. I'm all about the person. It's very rare that I'm not your friend and we don't have a friendship established after we close a deal. So this hostage negotiator for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Department, okay, Maricopa County is the largest county in Arizona, tells me at the end of the transaction when I sold his father-in-law's house, it's like, I don't know how. Right? Oh, is it? I didn't know that. He tells me, okay, he has no idea how I can do my job the way I do it without losing my mind, because the stress that I must be under is amazing. This is a hostage negotiator. Just watching me deal with his father-in-law, and all the nuances, and all the and see, I look at it as like, I respect the fact that this is his home. This is where his entire life, this is what he's known. So
you can appreciate
I never look
what
at
he
anything
sees
transactionally.
in it.
I don't walk into your house. Yeah, right. But to have somebody on that level who's talking people off cliffs and out of hostage situations and put the gun down, to tell me that he wouldn't do my job because of the amount of stress that it causes, should tell you right there.
That's saying something.
What we as realtors go through. It's not all rainbows and daisies, man. Like, it's just not. And that's the thing that's funny about that form now. Zillow, being the fuckheads that they are, they have a non-exclusive form that you have to sign for a Zillow agent to show you a house. So basically, Zillow thinks they're being clever, and they're not, because people who pay for Zillow leads, which is the monumentally stupidest thing in the world, they're not being protected at all. So if I paid for Zillow leads and $5-6 grand a month, which is just insane, which is why I've never done it, because it doesn't make sense to me. That buyer,
$5,000 a month,
they won't allow me to sign that buyer to an exclusive agreement. Oh, it's insane what Zillow wants for
Holy
stuff, man.
shit!
It's insane. And I never did it because I just didn't see the value in it.
No, that's ridiculous.
But yeah, so EXP, which is the largest real estate brokerage in the country, they flat out said they're advising all their listing agents not to offer any co-broke at all. So it's completely up to the seller, which I get. It's always been up to the seller, which people don't understand. The commissions have always been negotiable, always. But EXP came out and said that their agents don't have to instruct their sellers to offer a co-broke. The problem with that is you have to educate the seller. Like if you have a house you're selling and the seller's not going to pay anything to the buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent submits an offer and asks for, say I'm not allowed to talk about what they ask for. They ask for, a steak and lobster
Right.
dinner. Okay. And the seller says, no, I'm not going to pay you steak and lobster. Then that buyer's agent doesn't get to get steak and lobster, but he still has to sell that house. Or he has to go to his buyer and say, hey, I need you to buy me a steak and lobster dinner, which is part of the form.
That's crazy.
But you should make it. It should be mandatory that you educate your buyers and sellers regardless, right, of what you can expect. And I have language that I use now in my listing agreements that basically says, this isn't verbatim, but the seller can expect to pay anywhere between 1% and 3% to the buyer's agent upon successful close of escrow as negotiated. So that means you're a realtor, you bring me an offer on a house and you say, hey, Chris, we want 2%. Okay. If my seller's already prepared for that. So I present the offer to my seller. Hey, Mr. Seller, Mike is representing, John Doe, and he's asking for a 2% real estate commission on the purchase price. Easy math, $100,000.
Sure.
My seller says, okay, then there you go. Right? It's simple. To me, it's simple because it's black and white. It's in writing. Here you go. It's transparent. But there's agents out there that aren't going to do it. They're not going to educate, and they're not going to be an advocate. And what they don't understand, every realtor is a buyer's agent and a listing agent. You're not just one. So the listing agents, in my mind, that don't have respect for buyer's agents, and they're out there, they're going to destroy the buyer's agent's market, and people are going to start just calling directly to the listing agent, and they're going to weed out the buyer's agent.
There was something in there
which sucks, because then you create a dual.
Finish that thought. You create what?
No, well, it creates dual agency. So dual agency is another little caveat that's when I'm representing both buyer and seller. The problem with that is if you're a listing agent, you have fiduciary responsibility first and foremost to the seller, because whatever the seller tells you, you take to the grave.
Okay.
There's certain things you're not allowed to disclose because it's fiduciary, it's client attorney privilege type concept. So when you create the dual agency, there's always going to be something that's missed because it's impossible to fully disclose because there's things you're not allowed to disclose by the letter of the law. So weeding out buyer's agents by forcing home buyers to call the listing agent directly, are they going to get a better deal? Maybe. You don't know because you have nobody fighting for you. You have nobody negotiating on your behalf. So really, you're going straight to the source, but that source is representing the seller first and foremost. So whose best interest does that agent have in mind? You, the buyer who called off the sign, or the seller who signed them a month ago?
Right. So
the answer is the seller.
Right. And with that said, I guess that was going to be my question that you just kind of answered. How do you get away with being, if you're bound by what you just said to the seller, how legally does it not be a conflict of interest if I want you, or if I am the seller and you're also representing me as the buyer?
You have to sign a form that says consent to limited dual agency, limited being key there. So there's things that I cannot disclose because it's limited dual agency. So now I'm representing both parties in a limited capacity, which means neither one are getting my full attention because legally I can't.
Okay.
I can't disclose financial terms and conditions of a buyer to a seller because that's protected.
But that's made.
If the seller asks me, how much does Johnny make? I can't tell them that.
But that's made up front to me.
It's a form.
That's made up front to me.
It's a form, but it's
in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. I'm also representing the seller.
Yep.
And you need to understand, here's what I can do for you, and here's what I can do for them, and here's what I can't do. You sit both parties down and explain that to them.
It has to, and in writing, because it has to be disclosed. Everything has to be disclosed and upfront. So yeah, absolutely.
I guess
absolutely that's what they don't.
I guess the reason I asked that question is,
no, go ahead.
You figured the law had to have gotten involved somewhere because you told me I can't say anything about what the seller says legally. Then that automatically, brings a conflict of interest if you're the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. So I figured the law stepped in somewhere and said, here's what you can and can't do.
Yeah, it's a consent. We have to sign a form. We got to sign a form that's consent to limited dual agency, and that's the thing. It's limited dual agency. It used to just be dual agency form, but somewhere somebody got sued for not doing something, and because of that, they had to revise that form to consent to limited dual agency. It used to just be dual. Now, I understand when I got in the real estate market 25 years ago, the contract was 7 pages long. That's it, 7. Now it's 12, but then you throw all the addendums in. The buyer advisory is 16 pages. Agency disclosure is 2 pages, so there's another 20. Wire fraud's a page. Market conditions advisory is a page, so there's 22. Plus the purchase contract, the 11, right? So you're going on 40 documents without an HOA. Then if you have lead-based paint in an HOA, that's why I have my pre-offer docs, where I have everything except the purchase contract and anything related to that particular property. Because then you throw in the 7-page seller disclosure statement, the 1-page clue report, any type of nuances that have to do with the community itself. I mean, you can get 50, 60 pages just in purchase contract to make an offer on a house. So that's why I learned everything but the purchase contract. I as soon as if you and I just spoke right now and you wanted to buy a house and then we got all dialed in, within 24 hours, I'm going to send you the pre-offer stuff. And then I'm going to follow it up with a video explaining it. And then I'm going to text you and say, make sure you read all this. I can tell if you read it or not by the time that you look at it and when it comes back to me. And by the questions you ask. But I have all that. And then once I have all that, which includes the buyer broker, so you understand how I get paid, it includes a business disclosure because my company has a relationship with an outside entity, but it's all there up front. So the only thing I need when it's time to do something is we just write the offer itself, which is the fun part. But a lot of agents don't do that. A lot of agents just fly by the seat of their pants, and they don't educate. They don't take the time. It's perceived. Our industry is perceived as, put a sign in the yard and make money, especially when the market's crazy hot. I can put a sign in the yard and make $10,000. You can, but you also are liable. Every sign I have on the ground, every transaction I'm involved in, I'm liable. If I miss something, I'm liable. I can get sued, knock on wood. And I have a deductible of $5,000. So this world is sue happy.
Oh yeah.
So anytime that you think you're wrong, I'm going to sue you. So it's not roses and fucking or daisies and rainbows and daisies and shit like people think it is. My job is extremely stressful. Like you have no idea on a consumer's standpoint. It is. If we look up the top 10 stressful jobs in America, let's Google that. It's going to come up in the top 10. I bet you. Hold on. Let's set this so it doesn't fall down. Going to the Google, this is so not what I wanted to talk about today.
So while he's doing that, and we run into this all the time, that's why we never run out of subjects. While he's Googling the top 10 stressful jobs, I would like to say that I would like for him to be my realtor again, and I would like to buy a house in Arizona, but I need about 11.5 million of you to download this podcast every month. And if you just leave it playing in the background with the volume down, Chris and I don't give a shit. But if you put it on every device you have when you go to bed and just leave it playing, we would be much grateful. So this commercial is brought to you by me and my I Want to Retire fund, and sit here and spew out great knowledge to you listeners. Okay.
So, number 10 in the top 10 most stressful jobs in America, real estate agent. Stress scores 38.57. Number 9 is emergency medical technician. Number 8 is a stockbroker. Number 7 is an architect. Number 6 is an advertising account executive. Number 5 is a newscaster. Number 4 is a photojournalist.
A fucking newscaster. All you gotta do is read.
Senior corporate executive. And I gotta click more to see there. Right, but imagine what you see.
Yeah, whatever.
Imagine. You know what I'm saying? Imagine what you see, and
You signed up.
Right,
for it.
right. I'm just talking about
I know.
death and agreed.
I know.
No, but newscasters make fucking a ton of shit of money because Scott
Because
Passmore,
they're paid actors.
I posted recently on my Facebook page. He bought a house for. Right, Scott Passmore bought a house for $1 million in 2020. He sold it for 5.9 in 2024. So the number one most stressful job is a commercial pilot. I can see that.
Everyday people's lives.
And their average income. Oh, this is kind of cool. I didn't know this. I didn't know they did. God, right, but I didn't. This is interesting. I didn't know it was going to do this. So number one is a pilot. The stress score is almost 60%. 9-hour days make $106,000.
That's not much.
Number two, public relations officer, 48% stress score, 9 hours a day, $90,000 a year. Number three is the senior corporate exec, 47 score, 11-hour days for $162,000 a year.
You got to talk right into that microphone, man.
Number four, photojournalist.
Much better.
48% makes $40,000 a year. Yeah, photojournalist, number four. Number five, newscaster, makes $50,000 a year, 44% of stress, 8-hour days. That's probably entry level newscaster. Advertising account executive, 41% stress, $62,000 a year, 9.5 hour days. Architects, number seven, 40% stress level, makes $74,000 a year, 8-hour days. Stockbroker, 8-hour days, 39% stress, and $68,000 income. That's probably again starting entry level, because I would think stockbrokers make a little bit more than that. EMT, which is basically emergency tech. He's not the firefighter; he's the EMT. He's the one that drives the ambulance, shit like that. They're 40%, and they make $30,000.
Yeah,
and their schedules.
That's
vary.
horrible.
Number 10. So this is an average because number 10 is the realtor. 40% stress score, 9.5 hour days, and their income's $40,000. So I will tell you, they probably base that nationally because on a national level, the average realtor only sells 4 to 12 houses a year. But there's your top 10.
You're in there.
Most stressful jobs in America. Yeah, and that was back in. And I'm looking at the date. That was back in 2011. But I'm sure it's still up there.
And when
I wonder why it took you back all the way to 2011. That's
when
crazy.
you're talking about why there's that stress level, you just described, you have liability. If you make mistakes, you're going to get sued. And, at first I was like, fucking architect, but the architect has the same liability. If they design a building that kills 1,000 people because of their negligence, they're liable. A lot of people don't realize that, it's not enough to draw up the plans for the building. They're making sure that the materials used are not cancer causing, that the building's not going to implode on itself. And if anything like that happens, they're fucked. So there's your stress level with the architect. It's not designing the building.
Yeah. So case
in liability.
So, right. Case in point, in Florida, high-rise condo collapsed. So whose fault is it? Is it the architect? Is it the builder? Is it the contractor? Because it collapsed. It legit collapsed. It fell down into the ground.
I saw that one.
Which is why high-rise condos right now, it's very difficult to... Yeah, so high-rise condos right now are considered unwarrantable. And what that means to the everyday consumer is the banks won't warrant that mortgage because the issue that happened in Florida. It affected all of them. How the fuck does a Florida high-rise affect an Arizona high-rise? I don't know. But it creates a non-warrantable building, which means you can't finance it.
In a situation like that, my logical mind and my common sense would sit in that room with those lawmakers. This is why people hate having conversations with me, because I am the yeah but guy. I'd be like, yeah, but when is the last fucking time a condo imploded on itself? Yeah, I mean, everybody hates that guy. But normally that guy, if he's got a brain in his head, is the one that's saying, what you're about to do is fucking stupid. And you need to listen, It'd be the same thing if a plane crashed and all of a sudden, well, we can't have any more airplanes. Did that ever happen? No, because those same people that are making those laws don't want to get. You're right. You're right. But that was that they found out that there was an inherent safety
but
issue with that.
Right, and that's kudos to the Concorde for policing themselves, because they didn't have to. The Concorde airline could have kept flying that shit.
Could've.
They had one
Boeing's
crash
done it for years.
in the entire existence of that plane, of that company.
They know about some of those design flaws.
Boeing 757. Hold on, kids, you're not going down the right way. Absolutely.
Here's a true story.
The benefit of Concorde, which kudos to them,
that I just heard the other day.
Go ahead. True story time.
GM they found an inherent safety flaw. They knew what it was. They were told by their engineers it will cost an extra $1 to redesign it and put the tooling in place and get production back up and running. And GM said it's easier and cheaper to pay for the court settlements for the people who are going to die in these accidents than it is to invest another $1 per car. And if somebody wants to know, I'll find the story. I heard it on a podcast. It's a true story because the guy that told the story fucking worked at GM. So he was there for the whole thing and he heard the conversations go down. Right, so it came from a person who was sitting there and heard the engineers talking to management and corporate, and GM in their infinite wisdom decided, and they're probably right, it's probably cheaper to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to people whose families are affected by their fuck up than it is to put $1 on millions of cars for in perpetuity. But that's how sick this world is. When you think,
agreed,
what you just described earlier, my life is not all, unicorns and fucking roses. Neither is
Rainbows
society or the world. There's so many people that are living day to day, and they wake up every day and they get spoon-fed what they're supposed to do every day. They don't ever think about all these things we're talking about. The world's fucking wicked, man, and you gotta wake up and take notice. Think for yourself. We've just discussed over the last 41 weeks how we never used to watch the news. I went 7 years. Honestly, never read a newspaper, never purposely turned the news on. I just recently started watching it again in little small bites because, it gives us something to talk about occasionally. There's things that happen.
You want content for the show.
Sure. I'm surfing.
Yeah, see, I won't watch it, but he does.
But what I noticed away, ladies and gentlemen, is the propaganda that you are spoon-fed by whoever you follow. It is sickening. If you like Trump, you watch Fox. If you are in the middle, you watch CNN.
Yep.
If you're on the left, you watch NBC. And every day you are spoon-fed like mom used to give you oatmeal when you were 2 years old. Here's what you're going to go talk about at work because here's what we want you to believe because you are a Democrat.
Right.
Here's what we want you to believe because you're a Republican.
Right.
Well, I'm neither. So I'm sitting there going, holy shit, it's pretty fucking easy to see what they're trying to do. Divide and conquer.
Right. You know what's funny, dude? You know what's funny? When Biden and Trump were debating, right? Biden was taking the credit for the insulin, $35 insulin, right? Remember that?
Yes.
Well, little man and I watch YouTube in the morning. We watch this. Right now we're watching this guy named Ben who builds secret rooms. Little man loves it. He thinks it's the coolest thing. Well, fucking politicians, the assholes that they are, decide that for a little kid's show, we're going to inject a commercial on the YouTube channel, and you can't skip it. Like most of them you can skip because I have the premium, so most of them I can skip that shit. It's like 2 seconds, hit the skip button, we're good. Got to fucking watch Kamala Harris's bullshit. She's now taking claim for the insulin, $35 insulin shot. So Biden clearly said on the debate with Trump that he was responsible for that insulin cost getting down to $35. Dude fucking stood there in front of the entire country and said he was responsible for that.
But
now all of a sudden Kamala Harris is taking claim for that shit because I saw it this morning.
I agree with what you're saying, but it's so much deeper than that. And here's what you and I want people to realize is while she's saying that,
right,
Trump's over here saying that Vladimir Putin is the one that made the entire agreement to get all the American hostages home. And you could have heard a fucking pin drop in that arena and everybody started leaving.
Oh, I know.
And I'm so happy. Let me get this out there. I am so fucking happy that the world is not so goddamn fucking lost that motherfucker stood up there and thanked a fucking communist dictator who has killed people for looking at him wrong. And you support this motherfucker.
Yep.
I couldn't be any more fucking incensed. When I heard him say that, I said, if people start clapping, we're done. Not one person, thankfully, in the state of Georgia put their fucking hands together, even in a golf clap.
Right.
So while she has her own, if you do the research on her, I think it's obvious to everybody that's reading. I'm so fucking, that pissed me off so bad, dude. It was on a level that I have never felt hatred for somebody in my life.
Oh, I'm sure. I could tell. I'm
happy that
got you fired
I'm happy
up,
again that the people did not clap for this motherfucker. What an idiot. I too say things just to get a rise out of people, but I don't yell fire in the movie theater, right? If I know something bothers you, I'm not going to say it just to pick on you, right? I'm going to say, hey, what the fuck are you doing, you fucking moron? Because I know you can take it, right?
Right.
If you started crying when I said that the first time, I wouldn't just keep doing it. The difference between me and you and the way we talk to each other as friends and as bandmates and whatever, we said horrible things to each other. The difference between us is we were best of friends, and those things didn't affect us. It made us laugh. The things that he says and she says and all these other politicians, we've gotten to a point where I did start watching the news again, and every day she says things that are hateful towards him, and he says things that are hateful towards her, and nobody says anything about what the fuck they're going to do when they get in office to save the country. Neither one of them.
Thank you. They don't answer the questions.
And here's your opportunity. Because we want him, Tony. I welcome somebody to come debate the other side. Yeah. Tell me what he's going to do to improve this country, because every day I hear Trump supporters say, I can't wait till he's back in office so that things can be different. What was different then than now? COVID was just starting. Right. We went through a weird fucking time through the last year and a half of his presidency. And then we went through a year and a half of a weird time in Biden's presidency. You really can't judge either side for what they did during that 8 years, because there's a 4-year gap in there where everything was fucked up. But I challenge anyone. We have the capability now.
Agreed.
Come on here. Tell me what is going to change when he gets in office, because nobody's saying anything. I listened to a 3-hour podcast with Robert F. Kennedy.
No, they don't.
I was ready to go vote for that guy tomorrow, because he spent 3 hours saying substantial things about what he would do to fix this country.
Yeah. There was a guy when Trump Biden the first time around, he was the governor of Ohio. I forget his name now, but like, he answered the questions. He was very eloquent. He was not a career politician.
I know who you're talking about. I wanted to vote for that guy.
But he was a politician, but he was the kind that would, John Kasich. Was it Kasich?
Is that sounds familiar.
But Nikki and I were both the same way. We were the same way. It's like this guy, and I almost wanted, because then I was like, Trump should make him his running mate, because it would counteract his crazy, right? You had somebody who would be grounded and counteract the craziness. But yeah, I think it was John Kasich.
That's it.
But he by far, I thought during that, the original, I thought he would have been better than both of them, just for the sheer fact that he had answers to questions and he had solutions and game plans. Where you're right, we talked about it before, the Biden-Trump initial debate. They didn't answer the questions.
No, nobody said anything.
Once they got through the first 3 questions, and then Biden would slam Trump, and because Biden would slam Trump or Trump would slam Biden, and then they would get the next question, and they'd be like, "Oh, just a minute, Steve. Let me respond to that." And then he responds to that answer. And then the Steve's like, but dude, this is the question. Like, they didn't answer the questions. They stopped. And that's the problem with politicians. They're so busy trying to build themselves up and contradict what the other one is saying. They're not focused on the end game, which is you're supposed to run a country for the people, which
by
is
the people.
You're elected by the people.
Correct.
To make it the most envious country in the world. And you're not doing that because of the lobbyists. It all comes down to money. Like we talked about earlier, the oil companies. Why are they not fucked with? Because they line politicians with hundreds of millions of dollars every year for their campaigns and shit, so they turn a blind eye.
Yes. And before,
so if you would take the lobbyists out of it,
before somebody comes on here or leaves a comment and says,
go ahead.
Oh, you just counteracted your own argument. I'm glad you said that again, because while you were talking earlier, I thought about that. Some motherfucker's going to come on here and say, yeah, Mike, well, about halfway through your argument there, you said, well, the politicians, they go to Washington and they give lots of money. And well, that's why the gas prices are so high or low. No, it's not. Mm-hmm. What they're doing, folks, is they're going to Washington and they're giving them millions of dollars so that they can dump bullshit in the ocean and they can pollute your rivers and people look the other way.
Yep.
Or they can make the law not so strict so they can pump more oil. It has nothing to do with the price. They're not lobbying for the price of gas. That's the simpleton American. I'm not educated enough to say something, so I'm going to say, if Trump was president, the price of gas would be $1.50. That's what I'm going to say, because that's what Fox News told me.
Exactly.
Right?
It's kind of,
I hate that guy too, by the way.
It's kind of like how the tabloids, and it's kind of like how the tabloids are more accurate reporting the news than the actual newspapers are.
You get way more accurate news on Facebook.
The tabloids always seem right. Well, yeah. I mean, I try to stay away from the fucking stuff on Facebook because Facebook's one side or the other.
It depends on how you set your page up.
It goes.
I've worked for
my page is set up very generically because I've
worked for years on getting rid of certain things.
I get everything.
People, and mine is music and news I know is accurate.
Oh yeah, me too.
Like Anonymous gives me a lot of news. The hacker group Anonymous.
Yeah.
They give breaking news before CNN gets it.
Yeah, I have my stuff's my stuff's all over the place just because it is, but and this is a political comment, but like the last election where Biden won, right? You had 81 million versus 81 million, right? And then so all the shit that Biden was doing, all the crap that he was doing, and the fucking all his fuck ups, right? And I'm not just saying Biden fucked up, Trump fucked up, they all fuck up. When Trump fucked up, everybody's out of the woodwork, right? Everybody's out of the woodwork. It's fucking pointing fingers, slamming this, that, impeach, do this, that, fucking kill the guy, hind quarter, tar and feather, right? Every single person who hated Trump was champion chaos. Biden fucks up, left and right, up and down. Nobody says shit.
You know why?
Like, nobody says shit. Why?
If I'm the nicest guy in the world, and I'm not saying he's the nicest guy in the world, this is just my example, so play along. If I'm the nicest guy in the world, and I've never been accused of that. I've been accused of being a nice guy, but never the nicest guy in the world. I think that's impossible. Anyway, I digress.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
If I fuck up and you're my jury, my judge and jury, right? Chris Dunham, one of my best friends. If I fuck up in your eyes, you're going to forgive a lot of fucking things, right? If I'm the guy who every day goes on TV and says, don't buy a house from Chris Dunham. He's a bad realtor. He'll do bad things. He'll fuck your world up. And just spewing lies. You're one of the best realtors in the valley. You do a great job. People give you glowing reviews. That's not just me talking as a buyer. That's a lot of buyers. I see your reviews. If I'm the guy that's fucking black, but somehow we still got to work together and be friends, what are you going to do when I fuck up?
Right.
Once again, his mouth got him in trouble because there's people that are bigger and badder than him, whether he knows it or not. He found them. He found people who were in positions to put his life at risk, and they chose to use it because he probably said stupid shit about him.
Yeah.
You know, I try real hard
Agreed.
not to berate somebody to the point where I'm saying things that either aren't true or are meaningly hurtful to them personally, right? I'll say Trump's a motherfucker and a dickhead all day long because he is.
Yeah.
That's not saying I wish his family dead and I hope he dies in a fucking plane crash, right?
Correct.
I'm just saying you're a lying motherfucker because you are. And I can't believe people support him.
Yeah.
I don't support the other side either. Let's get that straight. I can't vote for anybody this time. I hope there's somebody on the ticket that I can just waste my vote on. I can in good conscience vote for either side.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just it's why we've talked about it before. It needs to be young, fresh thinking. You know, which it's impossible. It's the unicorn of a candidate that we want. Somebody who's not going to be bribed and swayed, that is brought up middle of the road, and can get both parties together and do what's right for the people, not what's right for himself.
Correct.
Or for his administration, or for their agenda, because they all have agendas, which, you know, everybody gets into politics with the right mindset, right? Everybody throws their hat in the ring as a school superintendent or whatever the fuck those little things are, with the ideology of I'm going to make a difference.
Right.
And then somewhere from that to Washington, it gets colluded and fucked up. And I think it all comes down, everybody gets a little taste of that power, and then they get a taste of that money that the lobbyists throw at you, and then it's fucking done. It's like everything needs to be term limited. We've talked about that before. You know, the president can't be a president for more than 8 years. Then Congress, senators
should be in the same boat.
Shouldn't be able in office for more than 8 years either. Period. They should all be the exact same. And until that changes, we're just going to continue in this vicious cycle of just fucking constant bullshit and nonsense. Because, you know,
well, anybody who's
we're a nation of voices that are no longer heard.
Agreed. And what I was going to say is anybody who's
not heard on a whole. And that's why
anybody who's a Carlin fan, back in the day, he had a big, long 10-minute joke. And at the end, the punchline is, it's a big club and you ain't in it. So to Chris's point a second ago, it's not only they get a taste of the money and getting wined and dined, but just like being in a band and knowing how a movie's made and knowing how a dance routine goes together, once you know the magic behind the scenes, it's not as magical. Right? I can watch movies and go, oh, fuck, they fucked up the CGI there.
It's not.
Because, as you know, a lot of people don't know, I did graphic arts for a living for a long time, and I was really good at it. So sometimes it's painful for me to watch something.
Yeah.
But with that said, real quick, the people who made Game of Thrones and House of Dragons, kudo on the fucking dragons and all the scenery. And I mean, the CGI in that is fantastic. So I have an appreciation for how well and how many hours that took to do that. So these politicians get to Washington and they get that behind the scenes.
Except when you see, a
lot of people don't know, you know, young man Bush, he was a member, so was his old man, of the Skull and Bone Society at Yale or wherever he went to school. They have the secret societies, and those people they take a blood oath and they do something to those people and they record it and it's kept in a vault and they have something on you for the rest of your life. That's how they work. They make you fuck some dude in the ass or something. I'm not making it up. It's true. I studied a lot of different crazy things that happen in this world. And that's one of them. You know, the way that you always wonder how these people can keep their mouth shut. That's how they can keep their mouth shut. They are blackmailed and they all blackmail each other. It's sick. So once you're trapped in that, there's no getting out of it.
You know, it's the world, man. Agreed. You're stuck. Absolutely stuck.
So
man.
Real quick, I never got back to the.
This is a fun conversation.
It was amazing, and I don't want people to think that like
the
Mike he probably hit the reefer and he forgot to tell us about the. Yes, I did hit the reefer, but I was just doing Wheel of Fortune last night, and I got every puzzle before the contestant every time, and I said out loud every time, that fucking weed, man, that really fucks you up. I just can't keep up with these people. I was the first one every time. So anyway, kind of proud of that.
That's awesome.
And then I say out loud,
Nice job,
that
dude.
weed, it really fucks you up, man. I just can't think anymore.
There you go.
I did not forget the Department of Labor and Statistics. So the reason I bring this up is it seems like the price of gas for some reason is such a hot button issue with people. This is cost.
Yeah, it is because it's $5 a gallon fucking sucks.
So this is cost and inflation adjusted, and this is averages. So your $5 a gallon in Illinois right now is $3.79. If you're up by Chicago, it's like $4.89. So these are averages.
Okay.
And they're inflation adjusted. And what people don't realize, this is another one where you'll have the guy, he's talking to you in the bar and he's like, back in 1965, gas was only 47 cents a gallon, young man. And that's all it's worth today.
Right.
And when I don't have the time to explain to Tex, who's sitting next to me, and that's why I don't go out a lot, because it pains me. And I know you're laughing too, but the level that it drives me nuts. I'm like, Jesus Christ, it would take me an hour to tell you why that's not true.
I do.
So real quick, we're going to tell our listening audience why that's not true. It's because you have to adjust for inflation. Of course, gas was 47 cents a gallon. People were making 68 cents an hour.
Right.
So in 1978, gas was 65 cents a gallon. But because of what people were making, it was actually $2.99 a gallon.
Right.
The very next year, it went up to 88 cents. Inflation adjusted, that was $3.70 a gallon. Now, here's where I was 7 years old when this happened. And I remember distinctly because I rode my bike up to my grandpa's gas station every day. And in 1980, the shit hit the fan. That's when Jimmy Carter, the inflation was going crazy. It was rampant. We couldn't control it. The country was fucked. And somehow Ronald Reagan became our savior. In 1980, gas went to $1.22 a gallon. And I tell you, you think people think gas is expensive now? They lost their fucking mind. They thought my grandpa was trying to make himself a millionaire. Mm-hmm. Did you see Bob selling gas for over $1 a gallon? He must just be raking in the bucks. Inflation adjusted, that was $4.51 a gallon on average. So in a place like California, gas was probably about $7 or $8 a gallon in 1980. Inflation adjusted.
Right.
My point to everybody is, you have to do the research. You can't just say a house was only $35,000 in 1984, or $65,000. Of course it was, because people were making shit wages. Companies were paying $9 an hour, $15.
Like what? But at the same. Right, but back then the cost of living was dramatically different than it is now. So like after World War II, John F. Long in Arizona, which is one of the earliest known master plan community developers ever, him and Del Webb. John F. Long, he was stationed in Arizona for whatever he did in World War II. He loved it so much he came back and he built a house. Okay, it cost him $250 to build a house. No air conditioning, nothing, just a ranch style home row house. So basically you open the front door, it's a rectangle, right? You walked right to the back door. Buddy of his liked the house. He said he wanted to buy it. So John said, okay, give me $500. Okay. So John doubled his money. He took that $500 and built 2 more houses. He was going to live in one and sell the other one. Like, this is great. Boom. All of a sudden, John F. Long's on to something. But that's the cost of living was relative to the cost of that house. So what you're saying, I get what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. So everything since then has gone up in cost.
Of course, you took it to a different level. The time you're talking about, if people will go, and I can't impress upon you enough, listening audience, if you're watching, this thing that you hold in your hand every day and what Chris and I are podcasting on right now, it has every answer you ever needed. It's this little thing called Google.
It does.
and YouTube and
Google or Siri.
And Siri. You can find, it cracks me up when people start like debating about shit. It's like, oh, here's the answer. Let's move on. So what you're describing in 1950 when everything, the boom happened, the baby boomers, everybody came back from the war. Do you know what the effective tax rate on millionaires was?
No.
I believe it was 70%. And then if it was over 10 million, it went up to like 85%. Why? Because Eisenhower wanted to build the interstate system.
No shit.
And he needed tax revenue.
Oh.
And he did not want to tax the shit out of the middle class because guess what? There used to be politicians who were smart enough to be politicians like you just described, where he knew that in order to build the interstate system, which in my opinion is still one of the greatest feats of mankind. Every time I drive on it, I guarantee you that I'm one of the only people in the world,
and the railroad, and,
you as well, but forward thinkers that are driving. Like when I go up to Michigan, I'm like, this is fucking amazing that this is even happening and that it's possible. First off, that everybody doesn't crash into each other, and secondly,
and take that
just
further
the fucking
back.
roads there,
right? But take it one step further backwards. The railroad that linked New York to California.
That's a fascinating story.
That itself, back when they did it, was mind-boggling.
Did you ever watch Hell on Wheels?
Because you want to talk about fucking manual labor. No,
that's what that whole show's about. Is them building the.
Is that a TV show?
It's it was a series on AMC.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, those people work like dogs.
I mean that in itself is a marvel. And that's the people that came to this country wanting a better life, and they worked for it. Now you have fucking people who are 29 years old, live at home, and they spend $15 for a cup of coffee and think they're contributing to society.
Agreed.
Just
so
saying.
While I'm not for illegal immigration, I'm going to make a statement that's as true as the day is long, at least to me. I would take any one of those illegal immigrants if I needed shit done over that 29-year-old kid picking his fucking nose in his mom's basement any day of the week. Because I know that fucker's going to work.
You know what's funny? What's funny when Trump was elected the first time, the new home subdivisions, right? When I first got into real estate, let's back it up. When I first got in real estate 25 years ago, and say 2 years into it or so, I started going the new builds and shit. Across the board, every new home community that was building houses, you pull up, it's KUPD, it's KDKB, it's rock and roll, right? Fast forward about 10 years, all of a sudden it's Mexican music, salsa, about that kind of jazz, right? So you see that shift.
I get it.
Why? Because the work ethic. Like there's a gentleman that framed the addition. Okay, he framed it. Him and somebody else, Mexican Americans. I don't know if that's how you say it, political. So don't get all fucking.
They don't care if you call them Mexicans. They just want to work and party.
He framed it, but one day I know,
work
but I
with
don't.
a Mexican every day. She's
One
not
day
offended
his
that you
partner
call her a
didn't show up.
Mexican. That's what she is. She's from Mexico.
Okay.
Don't call her a speck or a beaner. I mean, that's horrible. But
okay. So
you know what I'm saying?
Hell no. So one day his partner didn't show up to help him, and I do. Absolutely. So one day his partner didn't show up to help him, and it was the day he was putting the plywood up, because once you frame a house, you put plywood up. He, kid you not, he was fucking lugging the full sheets of tall board, not just regular plywood, tall board that went 9 feet tall plywood onto the roof by himself. He spent the whole day lugging all the plywood himself, tall board. One guy. There's no way on God's green earth. And he was here from like 5 a.m. to probably like 3 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon. There's no way. And I say this with nothing but love for the human in general. There's no way a white man like myself would fucking show up, and without my partner being there, I'm not staying there.
That's why I made that statement.
Fuck that. I can't do this by myself. Now,
because simply I'm an honest person and I'm a realist, and most people are not honest with themselves. You were just honest with yourself. You and I ain't doing that job.
Agreed.
We're honest enough to say we're not doing it.
Nope. And now, if I had the aptitude to do it, if I had the understanding of how to do it without fucking it up, I still wouldn't have done it by myself. I would have got on the phone and started calling people. Hey, man, my partner didn't show up. This is going to make it more effective for me to have some help with this. I'll give you X amount of dollars if you come
Bingo.
help me for 4 hours, whatever the case may be. But he didn't. He fucking, boom, labored to hit himself. I was blown away. And then his wife shows up later in the day out front, parked in her car with the 2 kids waiting for him to get done. I was like, holy shit. And I gave him props. I'm like, dude, I think I gave him $100 that day. Like, here, dude, dinner's on me. Like, because that, he could have just said, fuck it, I'm not coming.
Right.
But it was right when COVID hit. So everybody was scarce as it was. And it was hard to find people to work that were willing to work or that were healthy enough, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, he legit showed up and fucking full on, man. He framed, and it's tall board. It's 9 feet tall and like I want to say 4 feet wide. I mean, this shit's not. And I moved it. I've moved our wood 3 times, twice by myself because when we were doing shit and I had to clear out the garage, shit's heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And that was just me picking it up like this, and lifting over my head.
A couple of weeks ago,
and carrying it out to one of my barns and dropping it.
My buddy and I went and picked up my new top for the table that he's building for me. And this is like probably 2-inch butcher block, might be 3-inch. It's an 8-foot by 3-foot tabletop. Yeah. Him and I lifted that out of his Yukon and down in his basement by ourselves. And we both agreed there's no way we can get that out of the basement by ourselves, because I almost inadvertently killed one of my best friends because I'm standing at the top of the fucking stairs and I'm holding on. Picture this. I'm holding on to the 3-inch part and the whole rest of the weight of the table is going down the stairs.
Yeah.
And guess who's on the other end of the stairs? Rob.
Oh.
And I'm standing. Whoops. Picture this.
Rob.
Bye,
Rob.
Yeah. Hi, Rob. Glad you're still with us. Sorry. Glad I didn't drop that fucking thing. So I'm standing at the top of the stairs and I'm holding on to 150 pounds by the 3-inch part with as much of that table would fit in my hand, right? The whole rest of the weight is going down towards him. I'm looking at that first stair going, how in the fuck am I going to maintain holding on to the weight of this and take that first step? And I saw a look on his face that I've never seen before. And all he said is, please don't drop that.
Yeah.
Please don't let go. Because if I would have let go of that thing, he would end up falling down the rest of the stairs and pinned against the wall at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It was, a lot of people would like to say divine intervention.
That would have sucked. That would have been a bad
I just like to say that the universe interjected and somehow I maintained my grip on that thing and was able to get it down the stairs. But holy crap, is that heavy.
Intervention divine.
Yes, intervention divine. What a great tune.
Just saying. Intervention
I actually
divine.
tried to remember all the pieces to that.
All right, let's stick a fork in this. Really?
Yeah, I don't know if I did, but there was a lot of pieces to that song.
Okay. Yeah, it was a good song, man. Let's wrap this up. I got to do some shit. I got to prepare for the 60-mile-an-hour winds that are possibly coming.
Batten down the hatches, buddy.
I don't know. Put the flags down. Well, the only thing I'm really concerned about is the trampoline.
Yes.
They
like to fly away.
I don't want the trampoline flying. I got to get the flags off the flagpole. My flagpole is supposed to be hurricane winds, but I'm not trusting that if it's really going to be 60-mile-an-hour winds. But I don't fucking know. But, you got to better to be prepared and, all I know is tomorrow, if this really happens tomorrow, it's going to be a busy fucking day for roofers.
Oh, yeah.
Roofers are going to have a field day. So what did we learn on the show today? That gas isn't really cheaper in the Trump era because supply and demand was prevalent.
Yes.
Tacos are not always better with sour cream.
especially in my world because I'm
the
allergic
service
to milk.
industry sucks because they only make $9. Actually, right. Actually, Nikki told me that servers still make that like stupid $2.13 an hour, or $4.13 an hour.
That's a true story.
So you think they would be a little bit more attentive to detail when it comes to living off tips? Like, just it's not hard to fucking And we're nice people, We're nice people when we go out to eat. We're not.
Me too. I'm a
like
good
some
tipper.
people are. Oh, and hey, shout out to the Rattlers. Yeah, shout out to the Arizona Rattlers. The 1 year where I stopped my season ticket holding subscription, they fucking make the final game again. They make the championship game.
Oh, congratulations!
So if anything comes to fruition, they'll win it because I'm no longer a season ticket holder, because that just seems to be how it works, right? The last year they won it was the year before I became a season ticket holder, and if they win it now, that's the caveat. That's the caveat. I'm just not supposed to be part of that, which is fine. It's, life changes, and we were happy we didn't do that because they moved to Glendale, and I didn't want to drive an hour every day, one way, every game one way. It sucked ass. So, all right, boys and girls, this has been episode 41 of the Chris and Mike Show. Now it's brought to you by Gym Reapers. Get your workout on gymreapers.com. And they don't know I did that, so they probably won't give me any money, bastards. But sooner or later, we're going to get a sponsor. You want to be a sponsor for our show? Reach out. We'll gladly pimp your business for a small monetary fee.
Absolutely.
We're good.
Unless
like
your
that.
friends or family, we might do it for free.
Oreos, come on. Yeah, maybe for a casserole.
When you're ready to,
there's got to be something monetary.
When you're ready to buy,
there's got to be some kind of value exchange.
What's your slogan?
When you're ready to sell or buy, call the real estate guy 602-321-6180. When you're ready to sell or buy, call the real estate guy 602-321-6180. I actually had a jingle on KUPD. It was, when you're ready to sell or buy, call the real estate guy 602-321-6188.
You said it to me when you did
602-321-6188. When you're ready to sell or buy, call the real estate guy.
I fucking remember that one.
Rob Trigg was like, dude, that's the best commercial I've ever heard.
It was super entertaining.
Right on, dude. Yeah. It's the jingle, man. You gotta have a jingle. It worked.
And for those of you,
remember, everybody, if you're having a bad day, go ahead.
For those of you out there, I was just gonna say the same thing, that are struggling and letting shit get to you. Don't shut the news off. Turn on some music that makes you happy. Watch a comedy. Do something that makes you happy. There's got to be one thing, no matter how. Even when I was on my worst day, the reason I'm still here talking to you is I must have found one thing that made me happy, or a reason to make it to the next day, so just find that reason. Every day is not a bad day. Don't let them win.
Exactly. Exactly. Somebody loves you. Somebody will miss you. So don't be that person that leaves that gap in somebody else's soul. It's not a cool thing to do.
Yes. And
be mindful of that. And there's all kinds of places you reach out for help. So Google help for whatever you need, and go talk to somebody. It's not, and they even do therapy now. You can Google therapy and get therapy like on your phone, like right away and shit. So really, you don't got to struggle alone.
Right.
At all.
And another important thing is don't, I know we talked about politics a lot on this, but the difference between Chris and I and you is you're going to continue to talk about it day after day, and you're going to let it fester, and you're going to let it bother you. I'm done. I said my piece. We're an hour and 53 minutes in. I'm going to go make myself a chicken salad sandwich and some French fries, and I'm going to watch the Cubs game. And I'm not going to think about Donald Trump or Kamala Harris one more second of today. That's it. That's the last time I'm going to talk about them at 1:54:02. Let it go.
Yeah.
You have no control over what's going to happen.
Here's the final thought for the day. Oh shit, my brain because I got to pull it up. I saw this and it's fucking brilliant. And you're gonna like this because it is. It's fucking brilliant, dude.
Ready.
And I think it's a good way to sign off because of what we talked about. I'm sure some people pissed off. So when leave with this, I used to care about what people thought about me until one day I tried to pay my bills with their opinions. So think about that. When you see somebody posting something that just fucking irritates you, move along, man, because you can do one or two things on the Facebook land. You can snooze them or you can unfollow them. So again, I used to care about what people thought about me until one day I tried to pay my bills with their opinions. And guess what? It doesn't work. My bills don't get paid. Boys and girls, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris. He's Mike. This is Chris Mike Show, episode 4 y 1.
Peace, brother.
See? Peace. Love you, man.